Omega.
Hey everybody.
Hi.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome
back. Great to see you again. How you been? Why do some high magicians view Wicca or witchcraft as evil, or is that a misconception?
Yes and no. The reason why is that there are covens that are evil. There's just no two ways around it. There have always been the Malavento and the Benevento, the good witches and the bad witches. The way we used to talk about these things is that shamans were the good guys and witches were the bad guys. But anthropologists kind of muddied the waters when they started using too much cross-contamination in discussing things. There are anthropological purists who say that the only shamans who exist are the ones in Siberia because they're the ones who actually call themselves shamans. In every culture, there's a name for the person who works with unseen things and has the power to make things happen. It's just that name differs from language to language, just as the word for love differs from language to language. Now, back to your original question about are there covens that are evil? Yes. Yes, there are. And it's usually pretty easy to tell when you go to their outer court meetings. If you are in the witchcraft movement and you're interested in getting in touch with a Gardnerian or Alexandrian or other traditional coven, they have something called the outer court. And this is where they will hold public rituals that are only sort of public. By public, they mean we invite people we think may be appropriate. And so if you've been invited to one of these meetings, what happens is that you are watched. You are watched for how you react to certain members' behaviors, which may or may not be authentic. You see, witches have a tendency to play tricks. And the more evil they are, the more tricks they play, is what I have noticed. And the covens who have hazing practices, I've noticed. It's the covens that haze that tend to be more dark in their practices.
Huh, interesting.
And so you can usually tell just from a couple of outer court meetings as to how facetious or nasty or backbiting they are.
Right.
And so, when you look at the outer court, this is what you feel comfortable showing people?
What are you doing that you're not showing people?
What do you do behind closed doors? Whoa.
Yeah. So, there's another problem too, and that is that, witchcraft has gotten really a bad rep because of the Christians. The word strega, from which witch comes from, actually, is a pejorative, or was originally a pejorative.
Right.
So, it was, and then there's the evil witch and the stereotype of the evil witch and all of that. And for people to separate Wicca from the evil witch, Wicked Witch of the West,
Which is ridiculous because you've got Glinda right there.
Exactly.
And even in our most beloved story of Sleeping Beauty, you have the good witch side by side with the bad witch.
Right.
This is how magic has always been. Now, you see, that which is bad is sometimes culturally determined. Now, there are those things that we all recognize that are bad, and I could name some things, but I won't.
Right.
But there are things that are cultural that are considered bad, and things that are cultural that are considered good, that make the witchcraft and the magic that you do to prevent outsiders from coming in seem like misplaced malevolence. For example, the Islamicists have a problem with pork. The Chinese adore pork. So if the Islamicists cast spells to attack pork production in China, the Chinese would see it as malevolent, and the Islamicists would see that as just cleaning up a mess. Do you see? But when you get to
cultural values.
Right. But there are other cultural values that are consistent.
Right.
We all believe that you should love your spouse. That is a cross-cultural constant, no matter what culture you're in.
Well, and why do some high magicians view witchcraft, Wicca, as evil? I think that is a bit of a misconception, Fiona, the way that you state the question. I think you're not dealing so much with high magicians as you are with
Ceremonial Satanists, perhaps?
no Christian prejudice,
Right.
fundamentalist Christian prejudice in our culture.
Which leaks over.
Well, imagine. I mean, Leslie and I are dealing with this all the time because, I mean, more so probably than even witchcraft because we're so out there with the magic of Jesus. We get outraged. There are people out, what do you mean the magic of Jesus? Magic is evil. Well, sorry, the magic of Jesus is the magic of Jesus, and it's not evil. And God, you're sounding as crazy as the Pharisees by even saying that.
Oh, and don't get me wrong. There are witches' covens who think that Jesus is evil.
Right.
And the mere mention of Jesus or anything positive about Christianity or even, the slight hint of a hymn, and you're kicked out of the group. I can attest to this. I have been kicked out of groups before for simply stating that I thought perhaps we might view Jesus in the same way that we view Krishna or Ganesha or Ekkat or Zeus or any of the others.
Right.
Can't we just put him in the pantheon?
Right.
Yeah.
So you see, there are all of these cultural things that we're dealing with, but particularly high magicians viewing Wicca witchcraft as evil, not so much.
That sounds more like just snobbery.
Right. It's more like, yeah.
Because if we are high magicians and you're
Right.
just still mucking about around fire
and it's
pits.
kind of silly too because high magic and low magic each have their place. Leslie is really, really masterful in low magic. She comes from the spells background. I come from the high magic background. And we've really learned a lot from one another.
Yes.
And this course here in Spellwork, there are actually a lot of high magicians in this course as well, which I try to keep the high magic questions out of here and in the Golden Dawn, but it's not so easy sometimes. Then we have yet another problem, and that is that, okay, so there are fundamentalist Christians that are saying all of magic is evil, even high magic. That's what we're running into. Even the magic of Jesus. I mean, the word magic is like showing a red flag, a red cape to a bull for these people.
For some, yes.
For some, it's really, really, really is quite astonishing. And then we have the other problem, which is that, okay, since the Christians are saying that, since certain fundamentalist Christians are saying that magic is evil, even the magic of Jesus, believe it or not, then you have the actually evil people, the Satanists, who are taking advantage of this.
Yes.
And are saying that there's no
hugely.
such thing as the magic of light or white magic. All magic is evil. Yes, the Christians are right. All magic is evil, and everything other than magic is dogma,
Right. No.
which is equally as wrong.
Yes. Yes.
It's
it
as
is.
though high magic and low magic don't exist outside of black magic, which is absolutely silly.
That would be like saying the only way that you can possibly use nuclear energy is to blow things up.
Exactly. It's like it's really silly. But you run into this. I mean, you if you've never run into it before, go look at the channel of E.A. Quetting, and they'll have several videos about the right hand path debunked or whatever, and it's totally insane. It makes these false dichotomies between dogma on the right hand path is dogma, and the left hand path is individuality and freedom. Well, that's a crock of manure.
Yes. Most
Because
certainly.
Satanism is not a path of freedom. It's a path of slavery. I mean, you just take a look at these people. I mean, they're they have all kinds of problems. I mean, look at their lives. And, they've either blown out their nose with coke or they have all of these other problems as well. And it has nothing to do with magic, certainly not to do with the magic of light. But when you're invoking negative forces all the time, well, if you go to bed with dogs, don't be surprised if you wake up with fleas.
Right. It's just like someone who insists on eating cake at every meal. Why are they surprised when they've put on a few pounds? It would seem to us to be ridiculous that they're not really paying attention to what they're doing and how what they're doing and what they're saying don't match.
Right. As long as we're talking about this, I'm kind of exploring it while we talk.
Yes.
It's like, how is it possible that, okay, we're in a situation here on this planet right now where we're overrun with demons. Yes. I mean, why do you think we are right now under house arrest, half the world?
Yes.
Why? You think this is not demonic activity? What about the whole virus? It's not demonic? Of course it is. And Jesus dealt with these things by casting the demons out. Okay, so why on earth, now that the real path is to liberate ourselves from these forces that are already dominating human consciousness in this material plane, what is the point of deifying them, glorifying them? Oh, yes, all. It's like turning the guards of a prison into some sort of demigods.
It's the worst kind of Stockholm Syndrome.
Totally. It's Stockholm Syndrome, absolutely.
Falling in love with your captor. That is the definition of Stockholm Syndrome. And what do these people do when they show such really puerile and fawning adoration for, bless their hearts, I love nurses too, but I'm not going to get on my knees for them. Not unless that's what's required for the blood test. I mean, you know, it seems so misplaced to me because, in fact, we have heard reports that the doctors are having no work to do at all at the hospitals, and they're getting drunk and watching movies because the hospitals are empty. The elective surgeries have been canceled.
We could go on and on about the situation with COVID-19. There is one thing I'd like to say before we leave the subject, though, of this business of people seeing witchcraft as evil. There is one thing in witchcraft that Leslie and I have already shined a light on and hopefully is changing, and it really should change, and that is the infiltration of black magic into witchcraft.
This is coming primarily, in my opinion, through voodoo channels.
Right.
Voodoo was always seen as something very tribal, and when anthropologists started studying voodoo and vodun and hoodoo and the associated practices more, that put it out into the general literature. And many times familiarity will remove the stain from something.
This is why there really needs to be, people really need to get a good education in both high magic and low magic, in my opinion. You don't use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail, and you don't use a hammer to put in a screw. You use a screwdriver or you use a drill.
Right.
You
use
know,
the proper tool
the
for
proper
the job
tool
at
for the
hand.
proper thing. And just as we see people having certain problems with high magic because they haven't also mastered low magic, it's amazing how many people you see that are making great soul progress, spiritual development progress,
Right.
but they can't seem to keep their daily life together.
Right.
And they're always out of work, or this is going wrong, or that's going wrong, because they don't have that low magic grounding as well to balance it.
You need both. Just as you're a physical body and a spiritual body, you need low magic to take care of the material body and high magic to take care of the spiritual body.
Exactly. Now, add to this problematic one more thing, and that is that most low magicians don't have any real training in high magic.
Right.
And this is why there are so many coven priests and priestesses out there who are looking to, we got to draw down the moon, let's use voodoo.
Right.
If they had any training at all, they would understand that voodoo is not the route to go, but rather the Golden Dawn's assumption of God forms.
The reason why, and I want to make this super clear to you, the reason why is that as a good shaman, as a good magician, as a good witch, as a good anything that works with the spiritual realm, you don't let stuff in. You put it on top of you and you get the contagion from like putting on skin cream. You don't take it like a pill.
Right.
It's too dangerous. Skin cream, you can wash off. God forms, you take off. Drawing down the moon, you put it on top of you like
Right.
a hood. You don't.
Like a robe,
Yes.
like a cape.
Santeria, voodoo, hoodoo, all those.
It's all based on possession. That's the last thing you want to do is
Don't let it
invite
in.
demonic possession.
Don't let it in. Don't
Don't
let
do
in. Because if you do, and you are not strong enough to expel it, don't get me wrong. I know shamans and witches who are fully strong enough to walk into a person who's demonically possessed,
And pull it out.
suck it out into themselves, and then barf it back up. I know people strong enough to do that, but they're definitely not beginners.
And it's definitely not the best way to go about it.
And they were trained by people who had done this, trained by people who had done it. It wasn't something that they just, well, I think if I do what I read in the book, it'll probably work out. No. I know for a fact that informants regularly lie and mislead anthropologists. You cannot always trust the anthropological record as being authentic because the people who are talking to the anthropologists don't always trust them enough to tell them the truth.
The Illuminati have cast a powerful spell on the peoples of the earth, and while many still sleepwalk like zombies in a trance, they have prepared everything nearly to enslave humanity under a new world empire.
The of our hearts, the power of our magic, and the strength of our numbers, we still can break the spell put on our people.
We're just a ragtag bunch of magicians armed only with the power of our prayer and the power of our faith and the power of our magic. But whether you be Christian, Jew, Wiccan, pagan, magician, shamanic practitioner, or any other stripe of spiritual warrior of humanity, against this evil falls to us.
So we, who now, to stand with us against the rising darkness, because you're our only hope.
Have you ever wanted to gain real magical abilities so you can become the master of your destiny?
Do you wish you could get the ancient secret key for free so you can build the life of your dreams?
If you've wanted more out of life, to become all that you can be, physically, romantically, financially, spiritually, then you need to take action and get this right now.
That's right, and for free, but it won't be available for much longer.
So go right now to thescienceofmiracles.com and get started. Achieve the prosperous life you want for yourself. Gain ultimate life mastery.
Are you familiar with the Rosicrucian with what's his name? He's popular in the States. He's the president or the
Emperor.
Imperator.
The president.
Emperor.
Imperator.
From the Golden Dawn. What's his name?
Oh.
David Griffin holds this position as Emperor.
Imperator.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Have David Griffin.
I saw an email yesterday that he sent out about, there's a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
Demons of the infernal realm. I'm all of them.
There is really a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
There is a guy called David Griffin who is heading all these magicians.
David Griffin is S.L. McGregor Mather's present successor.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
I'm Golden Dawn Imperator David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Now David Griffin.
There's a magical war going on.
So there is really a magical war going on.